Now there are a lot of applications when we would need to solve a systems of equations, and we're going to look at one of them in this particular application problem here. It says that we have a dietitian at a community hospital who wants a certain patient to have a meal that has so many grams of protein, carbohydrates, and milligrams of vitamin A. Now, the hospital food service tells the dietitian that the dinner for today is salmon, eggs, and squash. The dietitian knows that each serving of salmon contains so much protein, carbohydrates, and vitamin A, as do the eggs and the squash. We are to find out how many servings of each food should the dietitian provide for the patient. The hardest part about this particular, these types of examples is to know how to set up your system. You know you're going to use a system because that's what you're studying. But how do we set it up? Well, since I know that the diet, if I'm the dietitian, I know how many total grams of protein, carbohydrates, and vitamin A that I need. So I'm going to make kind of a table here. And this is going to be my total column. Now, if I know how many total grams of protein, carbs, and vitamins A that I need, that's what I'm going to label as rows over here. So I have a row of protein, I have a row of carbs, and I have a row of vitamin A. And I know that from this statement up here that that the dietitian wants 78 grams of protein. So here is where I'm going to fill in. She needs 78 grams of protein. She wants 59 grams of carbohydrates, 59 grams of carbohydrates, and 75 milligrams of vitamin A. Now is when we come in and we know that for dinner we're going to have salmon, eggs, and squash. So salmon, eggs, and squash all become the parts. All become the columns. Okay, so I know that each serving of salmon is going to contain so much protein, carbs, and vitamin A. So this is what we're going to fill in. That salmon contains 30 grams of protein. It contains 20 grams of carbohydrates and 2 milligrams of vitamin A. And we do the same thing for the eggs. So each serving of eggs contains 15 grams of protein, 2 grams of carbohydrates, and 20 milligrams of vitamin A. And finally, the squash. Squash is going to contain 3 grams of protein, 25 grams of carbohydrates, and 32 milligrams, of vitamin A. So what we've done here is we know that the variables, right, how many servings of each food. So we're going to say that each of these foods, salmon, eggs, and squash, represents sort of a variable. Okay, so I know that I'm trying to figure out, well, how many servings of salmon do I need? How many servings of eggs do I need? And how many servings of squash do I need if I know salmon has 30 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbs, and 2 milligrams of vitamin? So what we're trying to find is our matrix here is structured so that the nutrition is the rows and the servings are the columns. And we started out setting this up because we knew what the total amount of nutrition was that we wanted, and it's the servings that would change probably depending upon what the nutritionist decided. Now, we did work an example in the previous video for 3 equations and 3 unknowns, and it was rather long, and we did it using the Gauss-Jordan method, or in other words, we reduced it using the row reduced echelon form. Okay, and that's where we got zeros above and below the diagonal with only ones. But we've already done that, and now what we're going to do is we're going to put this into our calculator and we're going to do it a little bit simpler. So what we're going to start by doing is putting this 3 rows and 4 columns into the calculator. So if you don't remember how to do that, we're going to go in here and I'm going to do second matrix, and I'm going to edit. So I'm going to arrow over and I'm going to edit number 1 because it's already a 3 by 4. And so it's a 3 by 4, and I'm just going to enter the rows and the columns that you see here. Okay, so I entered our information from the problem here into this matrix into the calculator. Now, we don't really want to, in this particular problem, I don't really want to go through and work all of those rows to get it to be in that reduced form. There is a command on the calculator that's going to kind of do it for us rather quickly. So I'm going to do second matrix. I'm going to arrow over to math, and I'm going to arrow up to get to the bottom. Now, right here at number B, it says RREF. That stands for row reduced echelon form. In other words, it's going to take the matrix that we entered into the calculator, and in one step, or it's going to do it kind of in the background, but for us, we only have to see one step. It's going to put ones along the diagonal. Oops, I got to get out of this, don't I? Clear. So let's go home first. Second, quit. Try that again. We want to do second matrix, arrow over to math, arrow up, choose option number B. Now I'm on the home screen, and I want to do that to matrix A. So I'm going back in, second matrix. I'm going to choose name number 1 right here, close my parentheses, enter. Whew, how nice. And in one quick step, the calculator gave us this screen right here. Notice that I have ones along the diagonal, zeros above and below, and this last column here, the 4th column in my matrix, are the answers, or is the solution to this matrix. So let's drag that over here, and we want to point out then that this says that, let me highlight it for you, make it a little bit bigger. This says that each of these numbers is the amount of servings for the matrix that I set up. So we need 1.5 servings of salmon, 2 servings of, what was next, eggs, and 1 serving of squash. And it goes in that order because the very top cell, 1.5, stands for this this column, my x column that we had here. So that's kind of nice. You know now how it's getting, though, the rows and the columns reduced, because we spent this example up here doing it by hand. And when you want to do more of a real-world application, you're probably not going to do that, but this is how they did it. We first had to get the matrix set up, and then we can choose that row-reduced echelon form to get the answers right here in the calculator. So that's kind of an application of how to do it.